Well. So sun drip, god flash step, eye source, god drip. Woo! Had a son. Who would have thunk it? This manhwa was suggested to me by Anime Anime Atheist, whatever. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, bro. For this recommendation, you sir get a pat on the butt and a kiss on the cheek from all of us at the Anime Licensing Agency, because this was straight heat. But did you hit that like button though? Oh, and subscribe if you're new. Limit Breaker starts off with straight smoke as we are introduced to this ugly duckling from the first chapter. The protagonist works as a cashier and he sort of encompasses everything you would think that sort of career would bring. You work there part-time as a college student, it's just temporary and it's not necessarily a serious career path unless you own some sort of stake in the business. So he's just a regular schmo with a half-decent brain and has control over all his limbs, so he ticks all the job requirements. We then see the main character proceed to message his mum when all of a sudden a large earthquake-like tremor occurs and holy Gary and his bucket full of dinosaurs. Some of you may be a little too young for that reference. After this tremor, our main character bolts outside to see the new Jurassic Park sequel unleashed in front of him. Now during all this madness, he gets cut in half and dies like the beta male he is. After this, a system alert window pops up stating the Human Awakening Project has been unlocked. He ends up being summoned to a space unlike the real world and much more similar to a game. Upon arrival, he's forced to complete a very simple but daunting task. All he needs to do is beat up a monster that's the size of a skyscraper with no weapons, power or health. Sounds easy enough, right? Wrong! Similar to Solo Leveling, Limit Breaker has a system which controls the space he's currently in. This system grants him unlimited lives until the test has been completed. Meanwhile, the protagonist can experience the sensation of death over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. But through some form of awakening, the protagonist awakens his inner plot armor and smacks the donkey out of this monster with his new awakening skill called Body Fortification. At this point you think, well, that's it. Now you can return to the real world as a player with newfound strength. But system error. What's with these buggy and glitchy games nowadays? I mean, honestly. Well, after being told that he must remain in the test space, having to repeat the same test for God knows how long, obviously our protagonist becomes distraught and he slowly starts to lose his mind. At some point he did something any sane person would do and just level up his stats. But after realizing that it meant nothing in the grand scheme of things, he stopped resisting and just gave up. He had some interaction with the system that had banished him to this hellish environment, but at the end of the day, the system was about as useful as Nate Robinson in a boxing ring. After a while you start to see the character's mind fatigue and all he wanted to do was just see his mum, but that was a fleeting dream. Now after all this, you're probably wondering how much time did he actually spend in this space? Well my friends, he spent not 1, not 10, not 100, not 500, but 3,000 years in the same space subjected to the same torture. In the 3,000th year, he was consumed with rage and forcibly broke the test space and crossed from that dimension into the real world, which I'm sure is a feat that shouldn't even be possible, but you know, plot armor. After breaking through that dimension, he goes on a hunt for his mother and eventually finds her after spanking a bunch of monsters in that area. Now during this touching reunion, a monster that was not yet dead shanked his mum in the back, and to be honest, he became very lame very quickly. I mean, first off, assuming you boosted your stats to the point where you could break out of a dimension created by the system that governs your powers, it's also reasonable to believe you have almost immaculate battle sense, and throughout the manhwa's battle sequences, he demonstrates he is more than capable of handling himself and high level monsters. But you let this bitch shank your mum in the back. Now after showing off his power, he gets recruited by the government and another organization shows a profound interest in him. And also, the story just takes off from there really. Limit Breaker only has 9 chapters, but the amount of action-packed goodness that it fits into these 9 chapters is very, very succulent. It's essentially Solo Leveling on steroids. Now, wait. Don't take that and say,
he said it's better than Solo Leveling.
I'm simply stating there are similarities between Limit Breaker and Solo Leveling. For example, the system present within both manhwas created very specific and special situations for both protagonists, whether it was on purpose or by accident. And within their respective worlds, they seem to stand head and shoulders above everyone else due to very special circumstances, which leads the reader to think, maybe this wasn't just, dumb luck. Maybe all this was by design. Now the main difference I see between the systems present in Limit Breaker and Solo Leveling is the fact that in Limit Breaker, after a certain acquisition of a certain item, the system started to speak back and ask questions to the player, which shouldn't really be normal because in Solo Leveling, the only person that has the player title is Sung Jin Woo. However, in Limit Breaker, there are many people that have this player title, and it would beg the question, does the system talk back to them? Does the system ask questions? Is it inquisitive? Does that system have a personality? We don't know. And if you're up to date with the solo leveling manhwa, don't worry, I won't spoil it. I'm just saying we now understand where the system has come from and we now understand how it works. So this difference could be something to look forward to if you're trying to look for something with a solo leveling aspect towards it. Because Limit Breaker doesn't really have a solidified narrative as of yet, and there are still a heap of mysteries that surround the system that governs his acquisition of the player title, there isn't much to talk about. However, it's clear that if the story continues down this path, that Limit Breaker will be the manhwa of manhwa this year. It will probably be the manhwa that people mainly compare to solo leveling, because for some reason, everyone is looking for a solo leveling counterpart. If you like this type of video, please like, share and subscribe. I will be doing more. And thank you very much for tuning into Manhwa Adventures episode 2, and I'll catch you